What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome back to the Sooner Surge. It is Saturday. We are one day removed from OU's opening win against Temple, 51-3. Score a little bit misleading, especially when you look at the offensive side of the ball. Thanks for joining us today as we recap and give thoughts after that OU opening win. If you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you do so. Also, check out the Fan Stop at thefanstop.com for all your OU apparel needs. You don't want to miss it. Check them out. Sign up for the Shirt of the Month Club. Use code SURGE and get 10% off your first 3 months. Guys, 51-3. Looks very, very much lopsided. It was on OU's defense to Temple's offense, but on offense, major concerns, in my opinion, moving forward. Adjustments that have to be made. Give your opening thoughts, guys.
Opening thoughts, defense, I think you could say as advertised because they were extremely good. They looked really fast. They looked aggressive. The defensive line, to me, was probably maybe the brightest spot other than kicker because I thought the defensive line, specifically the interior of the defensive line, was really good. Yes, I know it's Temple. I get it, okay? But they haven't dominated bad teams up front like that on the defensive side of the ball in a while. So I think that's what you can take from that. Offensive side of the ball, honestly, right now, sitting here a day removed, watched the game again this morning, early morning, rewatched every snap. It's hard for me to gauge what this offense is because I think the O-line right now is pitiful. It's bad. And I don't know how it's going to get better unless they get two guys healthy, in my opinion. You have to have Hickman and you have to have Jake Taylor. Either one of those guys out, I think you're in trouble. Either that or you're going to have to go very young and play some of the young guys because Michael Tarquin's, to me, he's not it. Spencer Brown on the other side is definitely not it. And Jacob Sexton, I think, needs to be at tackle. So I think whatever you need to do, get those guys in those spots would be the most beneficial. But you can't tell a whole lot. I do think they have really good running backs. I do. They didn't get the chance last night to really do anything. So you got to figure out the O-line. I'm not sure how much upside on the O-line there is. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I hear a lot of people saying, well, Jake Taylor's healthy. Somebody tell me how many snaps Jake Taylor's played in his career.
Not a lot, but
not a lot. So what is that based on? If Jake Taylor's healthy, they're going to be way better. But how do you know, though?
I think part of it is, it's hard to be worse than what you saw last night at the right tackle spot. That was awful. Spencer Brown, terrible performance. Oklahoma desperately needs Jake Taylor back and healthy. The clock's ticking now. Tennessee's 3 weeks away from today. You have Houston and then Temple to kind of hopefully get Taylor back as he's looking to make a return against Houston and get things gelling in that fashion and then figuring it out because if they don't, Tennessee is coming into town and they have the best defensive line Oklahoma's going to face in the regular season. And it will be a very long day for Jackson Arnold. He got sacked 4 times against Temple, one of the worst teams in FBS, 6-18 over the last 2 years in the American Conference. A very bad football team, and they were able to get pressure to Jackson Arnold. But kind of echoing off of what you said a minute ago, Jay, the defense was great. Forcing 6 turnovers. There was that special teams play as well. But 6 forced turnovers, that hasn't happened since 2003, so 21 years ago. And very, very impressive on the defensive line. I was impressed with the linebackers, all of them getting to rotate in. I think the defense showed what they're going to be, again, against a bad offense. Temple, probably the second worst offense they'll face all year, the other one being an FCS opponent. But, again, that's what the defense should look like against a team like Temple if they're going to reach their expectations.
Yeah, Jay and Hunter, you guys both said it. The offensive line was atrocious. There was nothing impressive about the offensive line. The best player on the offensive line was EPL, a true freshman, in the limited snaps he got. That was really the only time you saw them have success on the ground was whenever it was Hawkins and EPL and Tatum all in the game together. That's whenever you could say they had the most success on the ground. Now, obviously, they didn't show a ton. And so really, I do think, Jay and Hunter, as you guys have said, the offensive line was not good, but they do need to get a lot more healthy before maybe we can put a fair judgment on the ceiling of this offensive line. And on the defensive side of the ball, the defensive line, as you guys said, was dominant. The interior was not getting moved off the ball at all. They were holding their blocks. The linebackers, Kip, Danny, Kobe, Lewis Carter, all those guys were flying around, making plays. And the secondary depth is also very apparent there. They were rotating a lot of guys in, and as Brent Venables has preached over the last couple of years, competitive depth. Well, we finally did get to see some of that competitive depth come into play versus Temple.
Yeah, defensively, guys. Yeah, it's Temple, but OU did everything they were supposed to do on the defensive side of the ball. They tackled well, overran a couple, but really tackled well throughout the game. Helmet on the ball, caused the turnovers, didn't allow big plays. Really, the defense and special teams was as advertised. Everyone was high on Doug Deacon. Brent Venables goes with Tyler Keltner and looks to be the right decision. Schmidt can play the role of kicking the ball in the end zone on the opening kickoffs and after OU scores, and Tyler Keltner will be the field goal guy. I'm all here for it. Luke Elzinga is the punter. Use 3 guys. It's great. Those 2 areas are not of concern right now because there is nothing to show any concern. But it's very apparent, though, and for anyone to say, well, we just don't know. I mean, I don't know about Arnold. I don't know about the receivers. Guys, if the point of attack is it was bad. So if that doesn't get better, it's very hard to evaluate what's happening on the offensive side. And I'm even going to say, even with Seth Luttrell, the best thing I saw on offense last night was the 2-back set, 3 or 4 times that it was used. Cade McIntyre in the slot, Tatum coming out for passes, Barnes used as the other tailback, or Franklin, whoever it was that they used on those. The multi-back set was good. I did like that. I know we're going to see more of it. It's just very hard to evaluate unless the O-line doesn't get better. And I love what Hunter said. The clock is ticking. Tennessee's going to be here before you know it. OU cannot wait to make changes on the offensive line. They've got to make them this week. There's got to be some change. There's got to be something that happens. And Jackson, for you to say that EPL was the best offensive lineman, in my opinion, cannot be accurate. He played like 6 plays. By that point, the game was over. They ran on the left side, mostly with Tatum on the left side. He was on the right. I do agree EPL looked good. But to me, the guard was not the issue. It was the tackles.
Hey, a couple of things we haven't touched on. Jalil Farouk out 6 to 8 weeks with that broken foot. That's a killer. I rewatched it. I thought when I watched it first time, I was like, when did he do that? I thought it was on the catch. It was not. It was actually on Jackson Arnold's scramble play where he got right at the first down marker. He just looked like he pulled up lane. So that's going to hurt because now you're out Gibson and Farouk. You're going to have a young wide receiver step up, I think. But you need to get Anderson back healthy. And Jeremy, you mentioned the offensive line. Here's my deal, though, with the offensive line. Because I do think Hickman's probably going to be out a couple weeks, guys. I do. I mean, ankle sprains are hard to get back from very quickly. I think he's probably out a couple weeks. At what point, if you're Bill Beatenbow, do you not say, Jacob Sexton, you're a tackle. I'm not moving you around anymore. Garrett Hatchett, we're not moving you back from guard to center, guard to center. At some point, I don't know how you do it, but you got to figure out and you got to keep some guys in their natural position and try to fill that other gap. If you're moving guys all the time, because offensive line is very much about getting in sync. And if you're moving from one position to the other, it's tough. And then you're plugging and playing. It's going to be tough over the next few weeks, I think, guys. With Hickman, I don't know if he's out, but if he's out, obviously Bates doesn't look ready. I mean, his snaps weren't as good as Hatchett. The injury bug maybe still haunting Bates. I don't know. I think that's the number one concern, obviously, going into the Houston game is what are you going to do offensive line-wise? Because as they go, Jackson Arnold's going to go, and so is that running game. They got skill positions all over the place on offense. Jackson Arnold, to me, looked really good throwing the ball, really good decision-making. But to me, it's not going to matter that much, guys. This was Temple, and this was no elaborate blitzes from Temple. This was mono getting driven back to the quarterback by a defensive back that rushed you, Spencer Brown, came just bull rush. I mean, it was multiple guys getting beat a lot, and I don't know. I'm concerned on the O-line, guys.
Yeah, Jay, real quick. You said not moving Gear and Hatchet back and forth. I mean, if Hickman were to say miss a few weeks, I feel like you have to put Hatchet.
But then he goes to center, and then you're right, but you can't be going back and forth. Either Bates or Hatchet. Pick one.
Well, yeah, but again, to follow up on that is, well, when Hickman returns, where does Hatchet go? Just not play? I mean, I think Hatchet, as of right now, looks like he should be one of the 5 starters.
I get it, but are you better off? And I don't know. Are you better off Bates playing center and leaving Hatchet at guard?
I don't know. I think Keith Ozida needs to get in there at some point. I mean, I don't even have the words for it. It was a very bad performance for the offensive line across the board against a team that should not be happening against. But kind of going back to that 2-back set that Jeremy mentioned a few minutes ago, that play to Deion Burks, really like that look of how they had Tatum up the seam. Burks was then wide open in the end zone there. I think you're going to see more of that. And also, like with Brennan Thompson in the wide receiver department, I don't like the way in which he was used. I don't. Like, he's not a middle of the field guy. He's a beat you over the top, deep ball, 1-play touchdowns. Like, the middle of the field. I mean, he had that dump off, and watching it back, there was even more room than I originally thought for him to cut up field. Instead, he's trying to use his speed to the outside. He gets brought down short of the first down marker. It just Brennan Thompson, a bad game for his standards, for what people expected out of him as a starter. J.J. Hester, 2 drops, trying to fill up for Jaden Gibson, and now you're without Farouk for 6 to 8 weeks at the minimum. Somebody has to step up. Jaquez Petaway, one of the freshmen, somebody. I mean, this went from a unit for Emmett Jones that was looking like the deepest room on the team, and now you're without 2 of their top 6 guys in that rotation. Somebody else has to step up because Andrew Anthony's still recovering from injury. Nick Anderson banged up, hoping to come back against Houston. One of the young guys that haven't got a whole lot of production has to step up.
Yeah, Hunter, you said about the wide receiver room and just the way that guys were really used. And, I agree. The way that they used Brennan Thompson was not ideal for his skill set, like you said, because they probably ran him on the same drag route or crossing route, whatever you want to say, 3 or 4 different times. And there was also a time where Deion Burks ran that same route, and he got hit really good across the middle, a play that could have ended up in a scary injury. So really, I don't know why we're using those guys in certain ways. It's only a Seth Luttrell question to answer, not for me. But something that I was very, very pleased with was the utilization of the tight ends. We finally got to see Sharp. He got the ball quite a bit. And I do think that Bauer Sharp is going to have a massive year for this team. You can just kind of tell that Jackson Arnold felt comfortable throwing him the ball across the middle. And also, it was really cool to see him score the opening score of the season for the Oklahoma Sooners as well.
I got a couple things here on what was just said, and I got a final question for everyone here. Bauer Sharp was great as a safety valve. He's an athletic tight end. I mean, Jake Roberts didn't really do anything except block some. Bauer Sharp, I'm sure if you interview him right now, is not going to be satisfied with his blocking performance. It left much to be desired. If you go back and look at some plays, I'm going to say that, and I'm sure he would say the same thing. About Jalil Farouk, guys, you look at the schedule with the bye week, 6 weeks is right after Texas. If he's on the front side of that, maybe you go 7 weeks and he misses South Carolina, but that means you get him for Ole Miss, you get him for Missouri, you get him for LSU. That's ideal. He's not going to be ready for Auburn, not going to be ready for Tennessee, likely not going to be ready for Texas. But for people to say Jalil Farouk is done in Norman, it's not. He can make a massive imprint second half of the season, especially if he heals quickly. That's something to keep an eye on. Other guys do have to step up. You're right. I think a guy to look for is Zion Kearney. I think Zion Kearney showed something. He had a great block. I'd love to see him get some more run next week and see what he can do. But speaking of next week, guys, what changes? What do you see differently against Houston next week? 6:45 kick.
Hey, I'll address that. I want to address one thing. The Farouk, don't forget, that's the same foot he had already injured. Also, foot injuries are it seems like it's hard to come back from. And what you would hope for is by the time he's ready to come back, that somebody has stepped up and you could, if you needed him, bring him back. You can't be like 6 weeks down the road, like when you really need Farouk back. They really need to get him back. So we'll see. Also, 1 for 12 on third down. That's what's got to change by Houston, in my opinion. You can't be going 1 for 12 against Ole Miss. You surely can't do it against Temple. Okay, so next week against Houston, they got to be better on third downs offensively. I think most of those I haven't like put on paper to see what they were, but average wise, most of them were probably like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. Maybe I'd have to look.
I think that's correct. I think it was about 7 yards.
3rd and long, like 12. So you got to be better at that, and that goes for a few things. I think maybe play calling. Also, if they were vanilla, maybe I don't know, but you got to have better blocking. It's execution. They got to execute better offensively. That's what I'm looking for. Offensive execution and establishing the run game a little bit.
Yeah, 0 for 11 to start till they got the final third down conversion. I mean, that's going to lose you just about every game in the SEC. I mean, you can't do that and win. You just can't. And also, one thing I would like to see for Oklahoma against Houston, air it out a little bit more. No deep balls. Yeah, no deep balls to Deion Burks or Brennan Thompson. I think one of those guys need to get a 50, 60, maybe even 70-yard touchdown on a deep ball, kind of get the offense rolling in that aspect.
Something that I would like to see improve is just the offensive line. That's all I'm going to say is I just want to see an improved offensive line, be able to run the ball with much more success, and put Jackson Arnold in much better situations on 2nd and manageable and 3rd and short.
Yeah, and you talk about the deep ball, Hunter. Jackson Arnold in post-game presser talked specifically about one play. It was the false start by Brennan Thompson. He said they had a great look there. They had max protect, which I think is interesting that he pretty much had to say that, knowing full well that's the only way he was going to have any time to go deep, which again, that is the point that has to be addressed. But Sooner Nation, thanks for watching this content. Make sure you're subscribed to our videos. We got lots of videos coming your way. Trent Rattery coming on this week to break down the game. And we'll see you all next time here on the Sooner Surge.